Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon.
טובו אוהליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל מה טובו אוהליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל ואני ברוב חסדך אבוא ביתך אשתחווה אליך על קודשך ביראתך אשתחווה אליך על קודשך ביראתך מה טובו אוהליך יעקב משכנותיך ישראל.
As we still have a few minutes, maybe even an hour before we conclude our Shabbat, it's my pleasure to welcome all of us to Temple Solel and to wish each and every one of us a Shabbat Shalom as we are gathered for our afternoon/evening service to celebrate the Bar Mitzvah of David Liebowitz. As we are about to embark on our worship service, let me just offer a few offerings that may help to guide us. First, we want everyone to be able to worship in comfort. So just to let everyone know that there are bathrooms as you go through the lobby, and we welcome any of you at any point that you need to please make them useful to you. Also, as we lead through our worship service, the Hebrew prayer book goes in the reverse order of what you might be accustomed to with an English prayer book. So you just turn the page numbers in the reverse order. And speaking of turning page numbers, the worship leader, either myself or more frequently David, will guide us in the service by announcing the page numbers. If he doesn't announce a page number, just turn the page and you'll be able to find yourself in the prayer book. And we invite all of those present. We are a house of worship for all people, and so we invite all of us to join us in worship. And this is a participatory service. The Hebrew is right there in front of us, but it's also accompanied by transliteration next to the Hebrew, as well as English renderings of the prayers, which David will lead us in as well. So we really welcome all of us to be present in this joyous occasion and to be able to worship together as one. Our worship service, our ceremony of our Bar Mitzvah, begins with the donning of a prayer shawl, which we in Judaism refer to as a talit. The talit can only be worn by those who have reached an age where they are prepared to assume the responsibilities and obligations of a young Jewish adult. David has worked very, very hard to reach this moment, not only in the preparation of his Bar Mitzvah, but also in the practice of Judaism in his family, in his extended family, in the family of Solel, through many years of celebration of the holidays and the practicing of our rituals, but also steeped in the values and the virtues of Judaism throughout that time. And so as you wear that talit, David, we hope that you assume those responsibilities. We have confidence in you that you will. But also, the talit I like to think of as a Jewish blanket. I hope that just as a blanket brings you a sense of comfort and security and protection and a feeling of warmth, I hope as you wear the talit, every time you come into our sanctuary, anytime you steep into any sanctuary, anywhere in the world, I hope that any time that you find yourself among Jews or the Jewish people, at Jewish times, or in Jewish places, here or in Israel, wherever Jews gather, I hope that you will feel that sense of comfort, of support that your talit provides to you now and hopefully in the days, weeks, months, and years to come. And so, as it has been a cherished responsibility of David's parents and his grandparents, and from generation to generation, it's my honor to call forward David's parents, Barry and Sherry, who will, along with David, place the talit upon his shoulders as David recites the prayer. Alongside David, following that, will also offer a prayer of his own to God before the ark. And so it is as well my honor to call forward David's cousins and brother, Alex, Shane, and Matthew, who will kindly step forward, join us on the bima, and open our ark as I ask the congregation to please rise. Amen.
I pray for good health, a safe and clean environment, and love amongst one another. I pray for peace in Israel and here at home. I pray to Adonai to continue to guide me down the path of compassion, success, and righteousness.
משכנותיך ישראל לי 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 la 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 la.
Our prayer of Ashrei can be found on page 222. Ashrei means joy, and what better opportunity to signify, to celebrate this momentous occasion as the beginning of your Bar Mitzvah, David, as you lead us magnificently, responsively on page 20 with our Ashrei.
Ashrei yoshvei veitecha, odi hallelujah selah.
Together, Ashrei ha'am shekachalo, Ashrei ha'am shadonai Elohav.
Tehillah leDavid, aromimcha Elohai hamelech, va'avarcha shimcha leolam va'ed.
B'chol yom avarchecha, v'ala shimcha leolam va'ed.
Gadol Adonai umehulal me'od, ve'ligdulato ein heker.
Dor ledor yishabach ma'asecha, v'urotecha yagidu.
Hadar kevod hodecha, ve'divrei nifleotecha asicha.
Ve'zuz noratecha yomeru, gudatcha asaprena.
Zeherav tuvha yabiu, ve'tzitkata yeranenu.
Chanun rachum Adonai, erech apayim dal chesed.
Tov Adonai lako, v'rachamav al kol ma'asav.
Yoduchanai kol ma'asecha, v'chasitecha yevarchucha.
Kevod malchuta yomeru, ugvurata yedaberu.
Liodei livnei adam gorotav, uchvod hadar malchuto.
Malchuta malchut kol olamim, umamsheltecha bechol dor vador.
Somech Adonai l'chol hanoflim, v'zokef l'chol hakrufim.
Einei kol elecha yisaberu, ve'ata noten lehem et ochlam beito.
Poteach et yadecha, u'maspiach l'chol chai ratzon.
Tzadik Adonai bechol drachav, ve'chasid bechol ma'asav.
Karov Adonai l'chol korav, l'chol asher yikrahu v'emet.
Ratzon yereav yaseh, ve'at shavatam yishma v'yoshiem.
Shomer Adonai kol ovav, et krashin yashmid.
תהילת אדוני ידבר פי, ויברך כל בשר שם קודשו לעולם ועד. ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ועד עולם, hallelujah. As we turn the page, יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דברה הירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובעידך בית ישראל. בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב, ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מברך, לעולם ולעולמי עלמייך. יתברך, יתברא וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי לקודשה ברכו לעולם מן כל בירתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונאמתה תמירן בעלמא, ויאמרו אמן. As we turn the page, Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city. But prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, v'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rahel, v'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, V'Koneh Hako, V'Zoher Hasdei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Gula Livnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, God of our fathers and mothers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, and God of Jacob, God of Sarah, God of Rebekah, God of Rachel, and God of Leah. The great, mighty, and awesome God, transcendent God, who bestows loving kindness, creates everything out of love, remembers the love of our fathers and mothers, and brings redemption to their children's children for the sake of the divine name. Sovereign, deliverer, helper, and shield. Blessed are you, Adonai, Sarah's helper, Abraham's shield. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, V'ezrat Sarah. Ata gibor leolam Adonai, mechaye hakol ata, Rav leoshia, mashiv haruach umorid hagashem, mechalkel chayim behesed, mechaye hakol berachanim rabim, somech noflim verofe holim, umatir asurim, ומחיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיע ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. You are forever mighty, Adonai. You give life to all. You cause the wind to shift and rain to fall. You sustain life through love, giving life to all, through great compassion, supporting the fallen, healing the sick, freeing the captive, keeping faith with those who sleep in the dust. Who is like you, source of mighty acts? Who resembles you, a sovereign who takes and gives life, causing deliverance to spring up and faithfully giving life to all? Blessed are you, Adonai, who gives life to all. Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hakol.
Please be seated.
David, in a moment, will turn to a prayer that we call in our tradition the Kedusha, which derives from the same word as other prayers that you're familiar with, the Kiddush, which you helped to lead last night, and the Kaddish, which you've also learned, that prayer of mourning. Both the Kiddush, the Kaddish, and the Kedusha derive from the same etymological root of Kadesh, which is to be holy. To be holy in Judaism literally means to separate oneself. So we, as a Jewish people, are people that are somewhat separate and apart. But not only by the nature of just our history, our experiences, our practices, our rituals do we stand apart. We choose to elevate the sacred, to change and to transform our lives from everyday practices, everyday existences, into the sacred by the actions that we take. We can actually bring sacredness into our world. We do that especially at special times and in special places. This is a special moment, your Bar Mitzvah. And as you've been able to put all that energy and time and devotion and dedication into this moment, as all of these people who are here for you on this moment, being together as a family, being together as friends, being together in a special time in that way, and all the dedication and preparation for it is what makes it possible to transform ordinary existence into something more special. Also, you're in a special place, this sanctuary, which has been a very, very special place to your family and your extended family. But not only this sanctuary, from many different places and many different areas, your family has taken the time to separate itself from everyday existence, to choose to be separate in a sanctuary, to choose to be separate at special times in special places, whether it's holidays, whether it's special places at home, changing our world, changing your world to make things that are special, to elevate them, to inspire. I hope and pray that as you lead us in the Kedusha, that you feel a sense of that holiness in this moment, and that your life will continue to be enriched by the responsibilities and obligations that you take as a young Jewish adult, changing our world, whether it's to help someone, whether it's to help yourself, whether it's to make time and spaces worth living, that as you practice holiness in the Kedusha, as you practice holiness on your Bar Mitzvah, you elevate yourself and you elevate the divine within yourself and in each and every one of us. As we are embarking on that portion of our service, it's my pleasure to call forward your cousins, Eden Harris, Micah Harris, and Ellie Sobel. If you'll please come forward to our bima. As I ask our congregation to please rise, and we embark on the prayer of holiness, the Kedusha.
נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמקדישים אותו משמי מרום ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה זה ואמר קדוש 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 אדוני צבאות מלוא כל הארץ כבודו אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדוננו מה אדיר שמך בכל הארץ ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו
us sanctify your name on earth as it is sanctified in the heavens above. As it is written by your prophet, Holy, holy, holy is Adonai Tzvaot. God's presence fills the whole earth. Source of our strength, sovereign one, how majestic is your presence in all the earth. Blessed is the presence of God, shining forth from where God dwells. God alone is our God and our Creator, our ruler and our helper, and in mercy, God is revealed in the sight of all the living. I am Adonai, your God. Adonai shall reign forever, your God, O Zion. From generation to generation, hallelujah.
לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, קדושתך נקדיש. ושפחך אלוהינו מהפינו לא ימוש, לעולם לעולם ועד. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור, לדור ודור נגיד גודלך. כי אל מלך גדול, גדול וקדוש, וקדוש וקדוש אתה. לי 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 וקדוש וקדוש אתה.
To all generations, we will declare your greatness, and for all eternity, proclaim your holiness. Your praise, O God, shall never depart from our lips. Blessed are you, Adonai, the holy God. Baruch atah Adonai, Ha'el HaKadosh.
Lai 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 la la lai 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 la la lai 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 la la lai 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 la la lai 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 la la lai 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 la la lai 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 וקדוש וקדוש אתה.
For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks. For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and hands, we give praise. For the peace in us, which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful. For the gift of Shabbat, which renews us for life, we offer blessing. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. The Ritzeh may be found on the top of page 236. Ritzeh Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael, utfilatam ba'ahava tekabel, uti liratzon tamid, avodat Yisrael amecha. El karov lechol koreav, penei el avodecha v'chaynenu shefoch ruchacha aleinu. Find favor, Adonai, our God, with your people Israel, and accept their prayer in love. May the worship of your people Israel always be acceptable. God, who is near to all who call, turn lovingly to your servants. Pour out your Spirit upon us.
רצה אדוני אלוהינו בעמך ישראל ותפילתם באהבה תקבל ותהי לרצון תמיד עבודת ישראל. ישראל עמך ותחזינה עינינו בשובך לציון.
At the bottom of the page, Vehetezena Ainenu Beshuvha Letzion Berachamim. Baruch Ata Adonai Hamachazir Shehinato Letzion. On the adjoining page. On this holy Shabbat, may we draw nearer to life, to peace, and to joy. May we find true rest, holiness in our deeds, worth in our study of Torah. Let us feed on the love of goodness. Let us drink from the love of goodness. Restrain our thirst for excess and cleanse our hearts to serve life well. On this holy Shabbat, may we draw nearer in life, in peace, and in joy. Baruch Ata Adonai she'odcha levadcha be'ira na'avod. Modim anachnu lach, sha'ata hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu leolam va'ed. Tzur hayenu magen yishenu atahu ledor vador. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God, and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one, whose mercies never end, O compassionate one, whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you. Ve'al kulam yitbarach v'yitromam, shimcha malkenu, tamid leolam va'ed. For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. Baruch Ata Adonai, Hatov, Shimcha, Ulecha, Na'eh, Lehodot. Shalom Rahav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki atahu melech Adon, lechol ha-shalom. Ki atahu melech Adon, lechol ha-shalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. V'tov beinecha levarech et Amcha Yisrael bechol et uvechol sha'a bishlomecha. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Grant abundant peace to Israel, your people forever, for you are the sovereign God of all peace. May it be pleasing to you to bless your people Israel in every season and moment with your peace. Blessed are you, Adonai, who blesses your people Israel with peace. Baruch Ata Adonai, Hamovarech et Amo Yisrael Bashalom.
Let us take a few moments of silent prayer and private reflection, guiding language that may be found throughout our prayer books, whichever prayers may spring from our hearts.
עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל.
David, in a moment, you will embark on our Torah service. And as you do so, we want to just acknowledge the significance of the moment. The prayers you've offered so beautifully and read so purposefully with such real composure and sincerity and eloquently, those prayers in Hebrew we know have vowels. The scroll does not have vowels, and so it's actually a considerably more daunting task to acquire the skill to read from our Torah scrolls, from the 5 books of Moses. And yes, you've prepared, and yes, you're now able to read from the Torah scrolls, and I know we're really in for a treat to hear you read not just one aliyah, not just 2 aliyot, but you're reading the full measure of the Torah portion, which is really very impressive, all of the aliyot. But beyond that even, the word Torah means instruction. And you've not only able to reach this moment because you've learned how to read from the Torah, but you've learned the instructions that the Torah provides to us. It's only a beginning of your first really step towards Jewish adulthood, but those instructions of how to practice Judaism, how to pray, not only leading us in worship, but also knowing yourself, how to enrich your life with prayer, how to celebrate the holidays, what it means to be a Jew, what it means to be a Jew of a faithful person that has good values of compassion, of caring for the orphan, the widow, and the stranger, of knowing the stories of our Bible and how they lead us to being better versions of ourselves. You've learned all those instructions, and so in that measure, you're also ready for this moment to receive the Torah in your life, the inheritance of our Torah. Torah, in addition to instruction, also means wisdom. Torah means instruction. It can also mean wisdom. And wisdom requires not just knowing how to do something, but the why. And you are very special in the fact that every time that I've been gifted to be with you, you're always interested in the what and the how, but also the why. And you know, the why is a question that we constantly ask ourselves over and over again. Not just why are we doing a certain action, but how does it make us a better person? Or where does it come from? And why do we do this? And why do we do this in this way? And maybe why do we do it this way? But maybe we might do it differently at another time, in another place. Constantly trying to understand the meaning in life, the meaning in Torah, the why of life. You've acquired that as well. And just as your name, David, which we actually share, David's my middle name, the stories of the Bible, the stories of David, some of which you may know, some of which it'll be a pleasure to learn them with you as you continue to grow in your Judaism. But you've learned all these other stories of Judaism, the stories of the beginning of creation. You've learned the stories of Noah, of the renewal of the earth, the stories of the beginning of our people, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, as well as the stories of Joseph and beyond, the stories of our people and the stories of our family of Judaism. As you take out the Torah, as you read from the Torah, as you share the Torah with us, you are now going to, even more importantly, I think, than the instructions, the how of Judaism, even more than the wisdom of Torah, the why of Judaism. I have great confidence that you, in how you live your life, are going to write your own story. What is your authorship? What is your story going to be in the Torah? What is your narrative? How are you going to take what's been gifted to you from your inheritance to reach this moment and contribute to the world of the Jewish people? And so with that, we embark on our Torah service, Seder Kriyat Torah, the instruction, the wisdom, the learning of Torah, page 245. Assemble the people, the men, the women, and children, and the strangers in your cities, to hear, to learn, to revere Adonai your God, to observe faithfully the words of the Torah, and let their children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere Adonai your God. For happy is the one who finds wisdom, the one who gains understanding. For Torah's value is greater than silver, Torah's yield more than fine gold. Torah is more precious than rubies. No earthly treasure can match it. And so you've arrived at this moment, but you haven't done it alone. You've done it with the support of many of those who are in our sanctuary today, but most of all, it's a chain of connection that you have received from your ancient ancestors to those who are there with you today, your grandparent and your parents. And so symbolically, as we are passing on that chain of continuity of the Jewish people in the instructions and the wisdom and the stories that we hold most dear, it's my pleasure to call forward your grandparents, Beverly Heller, Martin Liebowitz, Diane Liebowitz, as well as your parents, Barry and Sherry. If you'll please assume the honor of opening our ark for this momentous occasion, as well as we will all bear witness to the passing of the chain of the inheritance of our sacred tradition from one generation to another. I ask the congregation to please rise, page 244, as we open our souls, our minds, our hearts, and our ark.
אין כמוך ואלוהים אדוני, ואין כמעשיך, מלכותך, מלכותי כל עולמים, וממשלתך בכל דור ודור. אדוני מלך, אדוני מלך, אדוני מלוך, לעולם ועד. אדוני הוז לעמו ייתן, אדוני יברך את עמו ושלום.
For from out of Zion will come the Torah and the word of Adonai from Jerusalem.
כי מציון תצא תורה, כי מציון תצא תורה, ודבר אדוני מירושלים.
In this scroll is the secret of our people's life from Sinai until now. Its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it.
Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, Baruch shenatan Torah Torah, le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonenu, Kadosh Shemo. Our God is one. Adonai is great. Holy is God's name.
לך אדוני הגדולה והגבורה והתפארת והנצח וההוד כי כל בשמיים ובארץ כי כל בשמיים ובארץ לך אדוני הממלכה והמתנשא לכל וטהר ליבנו לעובדך, 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 לעובדך באמת. 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 הללו, 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 הללו. כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללו, הללויה. כל הנשמה תהלליה, הללו, הללויה.
And for our first blessing over the Torah, it's my pleasure to call forward David's cousins, Scott Silver, Barry Silver, Brian Silver, and Vicky Silver.
My first. Ready? Baruch hu et Adonai haborah.
Baruch Adonai Baruch
Baruch hu et haborah li'olam va'ed. Baruch hu ata alanu Eloheinu melech haolam asher bacha banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
ואלה תולדות יצחק בן אברהם, אברהם הוליד את יצחק. ויהי יצחק בן 40 שנה בקחתו את רבקה בת בתואל הארמי מפדן ארם, אחות לבן הארמי לא לאישה.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan Torah emet b'chayei olam nata b'chayenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Keep reading.
Our second aliyah, we have the blessing of having more of David's cousins, Melissa Sobel, Karen Harris, Stuart Harris, and Jason Heller. Baruch Adonai Barach L'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
ויתר יצחק לאדוני לנוכח אשתו כי יקרה היא, ויתר לו אדוני ותחר רבקה אשתו, ויתרוצצו הבנים בקרבה, ותאמר אם כן למה זה אנוכי, ותלך לדרוש את אדוני.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. For the blessing of the third aliyah, we have David's cousins Rebecca Adler, Sarah Pearl Adler, and Penelope Heller.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Hanayim Barach L'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
ויאמר אדוני לך שני גויים בבטנך ושני לאומים ממייך ייפרדו ולאום מלאום יאמץ ורעב יעבוד צעיר וימלאו ימך ללדת והנה תומים בבטנך ויצא הראשון אדמוני כולו כאדרת שיער ויקרא שמו עשיו.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu et Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. For the blessing of the fourth aliyah, we call forward your grandparents, David, and your aunt Martin Liebowitz, Diane Liebowitz, and Allison Harris.
Baruch atah Adonai hamavorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. Ha'olam asher bacha banu mikol ha'amim v'neta aleinu et Torah. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
ואחרי כן יצא אחיו וידו אוכבת בעקב עשיו, ויקרא שמו יעקב, ויצחק בן 60 שנח בלדת אותם.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher noten לנו תורת אמת וחיים עולם נתן בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. For your fifth Aliyah, we're calling forward and blessing your grandmother, Beverly Boxman Heller, your aunt, Amy Heller, your other aunt, Mandy Heller Adler, and your uncle, Jason Adler.
Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
ויגדליו הנערים ויבוא עשיו איש יודע ציד, איש שדה, ויעקב איש תם, יושב אוכלים, ואהב יצחק את עשיו כי ציד, בפיו ורבקה אוהבת את יעקב.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'toheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. For our sixth Aliyah, it's my privilege and honor to call forward your parents, Sherry and Barry, who will lead us in the blessing over Torah.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
ויאמר עשיו אל יעקב הלהיטני נא מן האדום הזה כי עייף אנוכי על כן קרא שמו אדום.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. And as your parents stand by your side, you now, David, will have the first opportunity, hopefully of many, many occasions, to offer the blessing yourself for this special occasion of your bar mitzvah.
Baruch hu et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam. Asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim. V'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen.
ויאמר יעקב מכרך היום את בכורתה לי, ויאמר עשיו הנה אנוכי הולך למות ולמה זה לי בכורה, ויאמר יעקב הישבע לי היום וישבע לו, וימכור את בכורתו ליעקב, ויעקב נתן לעשיו לחם ונזיד עדשים, ויאכל וישת ויקום וילך ויבז עשיו את הבכורה. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
It's my pleasure to call forward Gail Boxman and Rachel Boxman, Rochelle Boxman, excuse me, to the bima. As I ask the congregation to please rise as we honor the Torah.
וזאת התורה אשר שם משה לבני בני ישראל על פי אדוני ביד משה. Just please let me down. Just maybe this go this way. This way. Very good. Okay, this way, this way. יברכך אדוני מציון ורבטו ירושלים. יברכך אדוני מציון כל ימי חייך ורבנים לבניך. שלום על ישראל ורבנים לפניך. שלום על ישראל. יברכך אדוני מציון ורבטו בירושלים. יברכך אדוני מציון כל ימי חייך.
Yahalu at Shem Adonai, ki nizgav shemo levado. Let us praise the name of God, for God's name alone is exalted.
יהללו את שם אדוני, כי נשגב שמו לבדו. עץ חיים היא, למה חזיקים בה, ותומכיה מאושר. דרכיה דרכי נועם, וכל נתיבותיה שלום. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה. חדש חדש ימינו, חדש ימינו כקדם.
Please be seated. And now we have the pleasure of hearing some reflections upon the Torah portion, which David just offered.
My Torah portion, Toldot, is about the birth and growth of Isaac and Rebekah's two sons, Jacob and Esau. It is found in the 25th chapter of the book of Genesis. Esau and Jacob are twin sons of Isaac. The firstborn, in this case Esau, would usually receive the birthright, expressed in a blessing by his father Isaac. The birthright generally meant that the older son would take care of the family, and in this case, serve as a link in the chain to the development of the family of Israel. But this is not what happened. Jacob, rather than Esau, gets the birthright. After a day of hunting, Esau, after being tired and very hungry, begs Jacob for a bowl of stew. Rather than simply giving the stew, Jacob then offers Esau the stew in return for the birthright, and in return, Esau agrees. Still, Jacob has to have his father, Isaac, give him the blessing. Jacob then tricks Isaac into giving him the birthright. At first, I wondered why Jacob, who tricked Esau, should be deserving a birthright, and what does it mean that we are inheritors of such a birthright? Part of it is that I considered how Esau behaved impetuously, trading his stew for the birthright. But still, it seems challenging that Jacob was the manipulator. In thinking it through more, and learning from the Rabbi, I came to understand how Jacob was able to reflect and grow from life. That maybe he came to realize that the quality of being a schemer was not good, and that he worked to overcome it. Maybe this is why Jacob receives the birthright rather than Esau. Perhaps Jacob was able to address his weakness and overcome it. Later in Jacob's life, Jacob wants to marry his uncle Laban's daughter Rachel. But Jacob comes from a family of schemers. After Jacob works for Laban for 7 years of hard work to marry Rachel, Laban tricks him into marrying his eldest daughter Leah instead of Rachel and makes him work a further 7 years for Rachel. Perhaps, from this experience, Jacob grows to learn what it feels like to be manipulated and learns a different way. Rather than going around his problems, he faces them directly, even when it's difficult. Later in the Bible, Jacob wrestles with an angel of God through the morning, insisting that the angel not return to the heavens without first giving Jacob a blessing. Many of the rabbinical interpreters say that this is not only Jacob wrestling literally, but not letting go of the angel, meaning that Jacob has to deal with his inner weaknesses. Rather than trying to scheme or manipulate the angel, he confronts the challenge in a straightforward way, demanding the angel bless him. The angel even injures Jacob's hip socket, but Jacob is blessed. It isn't easy, but that is how we grow. When we do something, sometimes we make hasty decisions. Sometimes we think we are making the right decision at that moment, but we may see in time that it was not the right decision. Like Jacob, he may have thought scheming and disguising himself was a good choice, but he sees later that being dishonest is not the answer, and that is a characteristic of good people. We learn from our experiences and mistakes, and that is how we better ourselves. Jacob learned it, and so did I. What does this mean for me? Yeah, I sometimes might scheme a bit with my brother, but the truth is, I'm not really a schemer. When I do that, I'm just joking around. In reality, I'm a pretty forthright person. But I think one area that I've learned to grow in is as a procrastinator. I've learned to deal with this straight on. I've learned that good enough isn't good enough. I had a big algebra test last year, and I didn't study enough for it. I thought I knew the material well enough and didn't need to study, so I waited until the last night to look at my notes. Even though I did okay, I ended up not doing as well as I could have. Since I've taken more time to prepare, and since then I haven't earned anything less than a very good grade on any examination. This season, in baseball, I started out with great pitching. So I didn't practice improving my pitches because I thought I had done well enough to continue. But I realized, even though I was pitching well, I can always pitch even better. I could have more efficient innings, to pitch longer with some more work. Also, because of how long my bar mitzvah has been delayed, I have had a lot of time to look deeper into my Torah portion and have learned new ways of interpreting my portion with the Rabbi. If you set incremental goals, that is the key to not procrastinating. I also learned to set goals for my mitzvah project, which was focused on helping schools in Hollywood that had a shortage of books and were looking to expand their reading programs. I love reading, and helping others to read is important to me. I set a goal to collect 1,800 books. I set incremental goals along the way and didn't procrastinate. I gathered my own books, asked friends and relatives for books, and scoured book fairs for good deals. Ultimately, I collected, organized, and distributed over 2,600 books to Oak Ridge Elementary, Hollywood Hills Elementary, and Beachside Montessori Village. I enjoyed this project and hope that these children too learn to love to read. Setting goals and helping others is an important part of Judaism. I look forward to continuing and helping others to make the world a better place. This is a significant part of becoming a Jewish adult. I would like to end with some heartfelt thank yous to many who helped me reach this moment. Cantor Rosen, you've been here throughout my Judaic journey. Thank you for allowing me to keep my original parsha and for helping me prepare to become a bar mitzvah. I appreciate all the days you spent with me going over the prayers and blessings again and again. Rabbi Plost, I really appreciate you taking all the time you have to really dive deep and teach me the true meaning of the Torah and of my Torah portion. Thank you for helping me prepare for this day, and I look forward to learning with you moving on. Cousins Rebecca, Sarah Pearl, and Penelope, thank you for paving the path with your bat mitzvahs and inspiring me, and thank you for the yad which I used today. Cousins Alex, Shane, and Allison, thank you for flying in from New York to be with me today. I always love visiting in our times together. Aunts Amy, Mandy, and Uncle Jason, thank you for memorable Shabbats, Jewish holidays, and family get-togethers. Grammarly, thank you for always being there to celebrate my Judaic rites and festivals, including my Passover shows where I was Moses, my consecration, sukkah building, and today's special event. Hanukkahs with you are always amazing. Grandma Diane and Grandpa Marty, thank you for all the love and gifts from afar, and a special thanks for my awesome talit. Matthew, thank you for being such an amazing brother. I love playing sports and video games with you. You are a great brother, and thank you for always being there for me. Mom and Dad, thank you so much for everything you have done for me. You are the reason I am here today, and you have helped me and supported me with anything and everything along the way. You are the best, and I love you. And last but not least, thank you to all my friends and family for sharing this day with me. It truly means a lot.
I know you may want to sit after all this time, David, but just you have a little bit more time on your feet. Wow, what a magnificent job you have done. And I have to say that it has been such a pleasure, genuinely, and I know I mean this not on behalf of myself, but also the Cantor, being by your side on this ride towards your bar mitzvah. You have demonstrated such sincerity and dedication, really from the first moment that I met you. And I know it hasn't been easy all the time getting to this place. And as you mentioned in your bar mitzvah speech, that there was sometimes a little bit of a circuitous road to get here. And yet you took those bends well in that journey with poise, and you've really earned and deserved all of the magnificent achievement that we hope you feel right now in terms of reaching this, not just in what you've shared and what you've reflected on and how you've presented yourself, but how really this whole process, I think, has been transformative to you, and you've helped us to be transformed by bearing witness to it today. When you speak of this struggle that Jacob has to become a better version of himself, it's interesting because Jacob is born with a lot of talents, a lot of gifts. He's known as a very strong guy, physically strong. I know you've got some of that as a pretty decent baseball player, and you do some other activities too. You're not a bad athlete. And he's also a pretty shrewd guy and has pretty strong intellect. And you take your studies seriously, you're a good student. And Jacob also is able to think more conceptually about life. Like I mentioned earlier, he's able to not just know the what and the how of life, but also ask those deeper questions of why. And you're just naturally a person that has all that. You are, like Jacob, born with, I think, a lot of those gifts. So what do you do with that? How do you live your life in that way? And our tradition teaches that in this struggle that Jacob has at night, that his name changes from Jacob to Israel in the Bible. It's one of the few times when a person's name is literally changed from one to the other wholesale in the Bible. And Israel's a pretty important name to have, I would think. So what is it teaching us? And the rabbis reflect on it, and they say there's 3 names that you're given in this world. There's the name that your parents gave to you when you were born, the name that you're known by your father and your mother. And then there's the name that everyone else knows you by, meaning how they perceive you and what you do in the world. But then there's another name that you're known by, is the name that you acquire, meaning what do you do in moments and times when you're presented with difficulty and challenge and hardship? What do you do in those moments? How do you use them? And how will your self grow? And how will your name grow and be elevated by that? I think my prayer for you on your bar mitzvah especially is that in those times and places that you find yourself maybe striving for a certain goal, to not be afraid to swing for the fences, to try and know that here you are in your bar mitzvah and you've done such a magnificent accomplishment. You do it so well, I'm sure, in so many other activities. And being a good Jew, we need people in leadership of Judaism who will think big and help others. Both think big in what I don't mean is just transforming the world, but also enriching people's lives, taking the time to really be sensitive and caring and compassionate, to know that the name that you have is very strong because you come from a wonderful family who has a good name, who has a strong name, and that you are well known, I'm sure, among your friends as a good guy and a person that they can count on as a friend, and so they know you by a good name. But especially as you seek to acquire a good name, aim high. Don't be afraid of struggle. Don't be afraid of maybe some bends in the road, because look what you've achieved. You set it high. You wanted to do all those aliyot. You wanted to read as many prayers as you possibly could. You wanted to learn as you went. You wanted to know why. You took it with sincerity, and look at what you accomplished. And so I hope you live your life by the strength of, in times of meaningfulness, to pause to know that the name of David is a good family name. The name of David is a good name to know by your friends, but most of all, the name of David will be strong because of what you seek to acquire with it, to not let anything be in your way, and to know that God will always be by your side in support and caring, close to you as you aim high in life. And so it's my distinct pleasure, really, as your rabbi and your friend, to offer you a blessing under our ark for your bar mitzvah, as I ask the congregation to please rise. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmarecha, Ya'er Adonai v'yichunecha, Yisa Adonai panecha, Yiselecha shalom. May God bless you, David, and always protect you. May God's countenance always be lifted up, and may you always find a sense of kindness and grace in God's presence as you face the challenges of life. And may God's light always shine upon you and provide you the peace and blessing of hope, of Judaism, of faith in your life.
Lechi lach, to Helen that I will show you. Lech lecha, to a place you do not know. Lechi lach, on your journey I will bless you, and you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach. Lechi lach, and I shall make your name great. Lech lecha, and all shall praise your name. Lechi lach, to the place that I will show you. Lesimchat chayim, lesimchat chayim, lesimchat chayim, lechi lach. And you shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. You shall be a blessing. Lechi lach.
As I ask us to please be seated, it's my honor to call forward your parents who offer now a blessing of their own.
David, I struggled with this speech. You would think with COVID and 3 date changes for this bar mitzvah, I would have written this months ago. But it wasn't until 2 weeks ago. Your daddy and I came here into the sanctuary for your rehearsal. As we sat in the front row, I watched you go through the service. All your Hebrew was so fluid, the blessings, the songs, the Torah portion, and I couldn't stop smiling. I challenged you with chanting all 7 aliyot from the Torah. You grumbled a bit about doing all 7, but Cantor, Rosen, and I had confidence that you could do it, and you did it just like we knew you could. We're so proud of your Judaic journey. You began Hebrew school here at Temple Solel in pre-K. Every Sunday, you showed up and soaked up all the information, including learning about the Jewish holidays, about Israel and the Holocaust. You do mitzvot. You know how important Judaism to me, and I talk to you all the time about how I still remember my Torah portion. Today is the culmination of your hard work and dedication to Judaism. Just like your daddy and me, like your grandfathers, like your great-grandfathers and generations before you, you're upholding this incredible tradition. We hope that by giving you this Jewish foundation, by sending you to Jewish sleepaway camp, and hopefully in the near future sending you to Israel, that you remember who you are and where you came from. Although it's been a year delayed, it means so much that you have officially become a bar mitzvah. The biggest thing missing for me today is your grandpa, David, your namesake. I was 2 months pregnant with you when Grandpa David passed away. Without a doubt, he loved his girls. Your Grammarly, your Aunt Amy, your Aunt Mandy, and me, and his granddaughters, Rebecca, Sarah Pearl, and Penelope. We didn't know if you'd be a boy or a girl, but I was thrilled to learn that you were a beautiful boy. You broke the Heller girl tradition, and it couldn't have come at a better time. We knew without a doubt that if you were a boy, you'd be David, our David. Your grandpa David was an amazing man, kind, honest, smart, hardworking, entrepreneurial. He was a CPA and had a knack for math and numbers just like you. He loved playing games just like you. I fondly remember playing Mastermind and Chinese checkers with him. And he enjoyed sports just like you. We would often play racquetball together and go swimming, and all the time in his radio in his car, he would be listening to sports station. Being born in Brooklyn, he probably wouldn't be too thrilled that you were a Yankees fan, but I'm sure he would get over that. I think about how much the two of you have in common, and it makes me sad, but at the same time, I'm so grateful that you have inherited his traits. There's no one better who could have carried on his legacy. I truly hope, David, that you continue to carry your life with integrity, just like your namesake. Yes, we love your academic and athletic accomplishments. We are proud of your Miami Herald spelling bee win and your science fair wins and your wonderful sports achievements, but you are so much more than that. You're charming and funny, and you're smart, not just in school, but in life. You could always read between the lines and figure out the optimal path to an end goal, like when you started David's Sports or when you contest debatable test questions. We are very excited to see what your future brings. David, you're a good friend to many of whom are here celebrating with you today. We're very grateful for that. You know how to make people feel valued. You're independent, have a sense of adventure. You love to try new things, whether it's water polo or fencing or skiing or going to a camp where you didn't know anybody. These are all admirable traits. You're also my buddy. Some of my favorite times is walking at night with you and Archie, and you slipping your hand in mine. I love talking to you about your day and what's going on in your life. I enjoy sitting on the couch with you and watching Shark Tank and All American. We share a love of dark chocolate, candy corn, puns, bad jokes, and a dislike for cake. And I'll never forget reading the entire Harry Potter series with you and all the other books snuggled in your bed. And I love, at the end of the day, singing the Shema to you, holding you. These are all times I will cherish. I want to thank everyone for being here today. We have friends and family from 9 different states: New York, Michigan, Texas, Massachusetts, California, Virginia, Colorado, Georgia, and of course, Florida. We understand that traveling and being here with everyone today, especially in these times, it's not an easy decision, and we are very grateful. This really means the world to us. David, you're almost done. And I'm confident you are ready for the party. You have definitely earned it, including the lamb chops. We are so proud of you and love you so much.
Thank you all for being with us here tonight as we celebrate David becoming a man. My attempts to slow down this process have failed miserably. As many of you can see, he's on the precipice of becoming taller than I am. It's difficult to share in words the feeling of time passing by. As I stand here tonight, I'm overwhelmed with pride, witnessing what you've accomplished at your age. I am in awe of your endless talents and abilities. Last week, as your mother and I watched you rehearse for tonight, and we didn't read each other's speeches, I was given a front row seat to watch your transformation from childhood to adulthood. I didn't show it that night, but I was overcome with emotion, seeing the way in which your preparation resulted in one of the finest performances I've ever seen. You have a very rare talent. You find a way to make things work for you and block out outside influences. While others look to be taught, you look to figure out things for yourself, take ownership of the process, and make the most difficult tasks seem juvenile. Whether it's the way you hold a pencil, throw a baseball, or swing a golf club, you're going to do it your way and make it work. Your passion for academics often leaves me speechless. You've surpassed me with your mathematical abilities, and it has been this way for some time. Many of the high school students I work with speak of this young, strange 8th grader in a class full of 11th graders. solving complex problems in his head and annihilating the competition in the classroom. Your desire to succeed inspires me to be a better father as well. Watching you play baseball gives me tremendous joy. Whether it's golf, watching Jeopardy, playing PS5 or fantasy sports, watching you compete and strive for greatness is one of my favorite things to see. As you begin to wear my sneakers and my clothing, I also acknowledge that this is just another phase as you've surpassed me physically, educationally, and spiritually. You will get taller, your feet will get bigger. I am enjoying this moment, sharing your life and my closet with you. I am especially proud of the religious journey you have taken on and plan to continue after this evening. As you step into the shoes of manhood, I am extremely confident that you are ready for the journey in front of you. Every parent wants their child to do better than they did, experience things that they never had the time to experience. My greatest wish is for you to find your passion and succeed in everything you choose to do with your life. One of my favorite things to do is scroll through the pictures and videos on my phone, or see those memories pop up online with the videos of you growing up. I don't know where the time has gone, but I'm extremely grateful to have had a front row seat for the first 14 years. There are many people in this room that attended my bar mitzvah 37 years ago. Just this morning, I gave David the ring that I and my father wore on the day of our own bar mitzvahs. Rather than wipe off the initials the way I wiped off my dad's 37 years ago, David asked me to have the engraver add his grandfather's initials and mine on the side of the ring. Stanley Cup, if you will. Thank you for that. It meant a great deal to me, and I look forward to the day that you pass the ring on to your own son. Remember this day, David. Remember the people that are here in person and in spirit to celebrate with you. Your mother and I are incredibly proud of you and your accomplishments thus far. Sky's the limit, my son. Mazel tov, and we love you very much.
And as we call forward Jake Silver and Salmon Silver, I ask the congregation to please rise as we open the ark for the adoration. Page 282.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים, לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Please be seated. Page 287. May we gain wisdom in our lives, overflowing like a river with understanding. Loved each of us for the peace we bring to others. May our deeds exceed our speech, and may we never lift up our hand but to conquer fear and doubt and despair. Rise up like the sun, O God, over all humanity. Cause light to go forth over all the lands between the seas, and light up the universe with the joy of wholeness, of freedom, and of peace.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו ושמו אחד.
Let us turn to a mournful meditation on page 291. יש כוכבים שעולם מגיע ארצה רק כאשר הם עצמם עבדו ואינם. יש אנשים סביב זכרם מאיר כאשר הם עצמם אינם עוד בתוכנו. אורות אלה המבהיקים בחשכת הליל הם שמראים לאדם את הדרך. There are stars up above so far away we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us. As we live our days, these are the ways we remember. And so we especially recognize our loved ones who passed at this time in seasons beforehand, in years beforehand at this season, especially those of David's family. Arnold Buxbaum, Ruth Buxbaum, Sean Harris, David Heller, Murray Heller, Pearl Heller, Alex Kurland, Lori Kurland, Martha Kurland, Joseph Liebowitz, Minnie Liebowitz, and Arnold Silver. I ask the congregation to please rise for the Mourner's Kaddish, which can be found on page 294. Yikadal v'yikadash shemei Rabbah, be'amad divrach yirutei v'amlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, b'gala v'izman kariv yimru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'lam umei amaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudesha brichu. Le'lam min kol berchata v'shirata, Tushbechata v'nechamata, damiram be'ama v'imru, amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu, v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol Yishvei tevel, v'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all who mourn, to which we offer. Amen. Please be seated. Now there's a very special opportunity, David. You're going to acquire a couple of gifts. And it's usually at this juncture at the service, I call forward a representative of leadership from our congregation to do the presentation. We're so blessed in Temple Solel that you have many members of your family from whom we could select who have gifted their many talents to our congregation. It's my pleasure to call forward one of them, your Aunt Mandy, who will provide us with this opportunity to provide some gifts on behalf of our congregation and some words of distinction of her own on behalf of your family.
It is an honor to be standing here on the Bima today, representing past president, Uncle Jason, and the Temple Solel Board of Directors. David, at your age, I was not the athlete your parents were, and so I spent a lot of my time participating in speech and debate. I relied heavily on what we called canned intros, where we would shove pithy stories about scissors and animals into any possible topic. Here's one of my favorites. Statistics are like bikinis. What they reveal is interesting, but what they hide is essential. I earned a lot of scholarship money with that one. And so when I first started thinking about this speech, my mind immediately went to my training in catchy intros, pithy quotations, and heart-wrenching conclusions. And then I realized, you are way too important for one of my overused and pre-written speeches. Upon discussing this presentation with Grammarly last Shabbat, we realized there's just one thing that I and your entire family want to drive home today, on this day of your Bar Mitzvah. You are loved. Not a little, not somewhat, but a whole lot. We are so fortunate to have such a close family, and there is always a spot for you at our home and our table. Personally, I love the bond we share and the way that I am the only person in the family who can get you to do stuff. I love that you know I will defend you to the very end, no matter what you do. And I love that you get into your Uncle Jason's car and don't want to get out. And the way that you make your place at home on my couch. And since this is your bar mitzvah, I'll let you in on a little secret. Your faith and your family are the two biggest gifts your parents have given you. If you have your faith, you will never feel alone, and you will always be connected to something bigger than yourself. Your life will have purpose, and you will know to use your talents, for which there are many, for the greater good. So whether you make $1 zillion on Wall Street, as a doctor, a teacher, or a business owner, you will know that you're a part of something bigger and better than yourself. And as for the gift of family, you will always have people who have your back. Why did your grandparents, cousins, aunts, and uncles fly in from all over the country for this event? While the fear of Grammarly's wrath surely had something to do with it, I know it's also because we value family and the relationships you will never have with anyone else. We celebrate crazy Hanukkahs not because we need another t-shirt that says world's greatest funkle or a plastic wind-up running nose, but because we get to express our love, laugh, and be together, and that's our family. Expanding from your blood family, your Jewish community is another family you will always have. When I was living in Spain and did not speak the language, I immediately went to the synagogue, which took me in, fed me, and included me. Welcome to the global Jewish family. And finally, you've become an official member of the Temple Solel family. That includes your clergy, teachers, and friends who educated you and supported you, including getting you ready for this special day. And so it is my honor, on behalf of your family of Temple Solel Board of Directors, that I present you with a few more gifts. From the Sisterhood, this Kiddush cup, from which you can enjoy grape juice on Shabbat and wine one day. From the Brotherhood, the prayer book from which you are reading and learning. From the Alexander Muss High School in Israel, this scholarship should you choose to study in Israel during high school, which I hope you do. There's also a certificate for you to join the March of the Living, another meaningful Jewish rite of passage. And speaking of meaningful Jewish experiences, here is a mezuzah from Camp Bowercrest, with the hope that you will always remember who you are, where you come from, and how much you mean to your brothers on the hill. And lastly, please accept the certificate of Bar Mitzvah from Temple Solel. Mazel Tov, David. All of us in your family and the family of Solel, your rabbi, the Cantor, your teachers, and your fellow students are all very proud of you, and we love you very much.
I talked a little bit earlier about the understanding of holiness, of separation, of changing that which is profane or that which is ordinary into something truly magnificent and meaningful. I think you now can fully appreciate the nature of that holiness and all the gifts, not only that you've literally received, but the love that we've all been so blessed to bear witness to in the past few moments. We have a short ceremony that separates as well Shabbat, the day of holiness, from the week, which is ordinary. And the ceremony involves flames, it involves smells, and involves tastes, such that we hope that we take a little bit of the sweetness, of the holiness, of the experience of transformation of Shabbat with us into the week, wherever we go, and carries with us all the way through the week until the next Shabbat. And so as we celebrate our prayer of holiness, which we literally call Havdalah, the prayer of separation from the holiness of time into the ordinary of time, I hope as well that you will fully take measure of the fullness of this moment as you look out for one last time among all these people who have gathered to be here from you, from all the various places and all the various backgrounds of your life, that you take with those sweetnesses and smells and immersions of this day with you, not only through this week, but in your years of Judaism to come. And so it's my pleasure to help lead us in Havdalah. To please come forward your uncle, Robert Boxman, your cousin, Aaron Boxman, and as well as your brother, Matthew. As I ask the congregation to please rise. We're going to be over there. We're over there. We're over there.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen Lai lai la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai 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 la la lai 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 la la lai lai la la lai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei besamim borei minei besamim lai lai la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai 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 la la lai 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 la la lai lai la la lai Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei meorei ha'esh borei meorei ha'esh lai lai la 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 lai 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 la 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 lai 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 la la lai 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 la la lai lai la la lai Shavua tov, 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 Shavua tov. Good a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. A good week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase.
And we are particularly blessed to have your uncle lead us in the Hamotzi.
Amen. Shavua tov, 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 Shavua tov. A good week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase. A good week, a week of peace. May gladness reign and joy increase.
How beautiful and special is this moment.
Siman tovo, mazel tovo, siman tovo, mazel tovo, siman tovo, mazel tovo, siman tovo, en yelanu. Siman tovo, mazel tovo, siman tovo, mazel tovo, siman tovo, mazel tovo, siman tovo, hey yelanu, yelanu, ולכל ישראל, יהי לנו, ולכל ישראל, דוד מלך ישראל, חי וקיים, דוד מלך ישראל, חי וקיים.
Mazel tov. We can get away.